blew the next tune out of my mind. I just, and we got about half a thing into it, and we all stopped, and finally, eventually, one guy down front got a start in the right tune, but he's this big, huge dude, and so he was about 14 octaves below any of the rest of us, what any of the rest of us could do. So it was funny. Anyways, a little personal story there, but I understand. I would rather have people concerned about these issues than apathetic about these issues. That so I suppose if it's got to be one way or the other, I'd rather have the concern. At the same time, unfortunately, I have encountered some folks who could get a little bit aggressive about it. And,
as have I.
And so there's a balance in there someplace, but.
So you would view that maybe as something that's at the discretion of the elders of the local congregation?
Oh yeah, yeah, most definitely. I think the elders of the congregation should be convinced about it, should be able to give a response for it and say, here's where we stand on this. And obviously we have good relationships with churches that would differ with us on that, because we're not exclusive psalmody. We do sing a lot of psalms. We probably sing more psalms than a lot of people would at all be comfortable with. But we're not exclusive psalmists. So, and we do have a piano. We have an organ too, but it's been dead longer than I've been at the church, and it's slowly disappearing because the kids are slowly cannibalizing little pieces off of it. So it's really sort of humorous that we're all watching this happen over time. But we also have an overhead projector over in the corner of the Bible study room that has not moved literally for about 30 years. So that's just Reformed Baptists are just that way.
So just real quickly to play devil's advocate for them on there, you're talking about the use of the instruments in Old Testament worship. I've had them say to me that those instruments were used in connection with the sacrificial system when they were in worship, and since Christ, those things pointed to Christ,
What they do? Whack the lamb over the head with the harp? I'm sorry. I know.
About how they blow the trumpet during sacrifice.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't. There is a tremendous. For example, I think there's a pretty fatal argument against that. The ascent psalms were sung on the way to Jerusalem for worship, but there were instruments used with them. They weren't even in the temple yet. So I just don't see any connection, any meaningful connection between those instruments and the sacrificial system at all.
Okay.
I just don't see it.
All right.
All righty.
Well, thanks very much, Dr. White.
Hey, thanks, Austin. I appreciate it. God bless.
Right.
Bye-bye. 877-753-3341. Let's talk with Jeremy. Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, Dr. White, how you doing?
Doing good.
So I have a question in regards to the Church of Christ. My coworker recently left from Catholic Church with his wife, and I got to get him to go to a Solid Baptist church for a while. And recently, his wife forced him to leave the church because she rejects original sin.
Oh.
And so right after they left, they joined the Church of Christ. And when he told me, I tried orchestrating a meeting with the two of them to talk to them over this issue. But his wife told the elders of his church, and he basically told him to shun me at work. And
is this?
I'm just asking,
let me ask you a question, Jeremy. Would this happen to be the International Churches of Christ?
Yeah, the ICC. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, need to include that in there because the old line Church of Christ groups, some down south could be that aggressive, but as soon as you said that, it sounded to me like an ICC issue because they tend to be quite cultic.
Yeah, no, I'm scared for him because he recently left the Roman Catholic Church, and I've been trying to pour into him the Reformed faith.
Yeah,
and his wife totally rejects original sin, and I really wanted to talk to them about that issue and tell them that the scriptures are very clear about that, and they're basically wanting to shun me. And I'm scared for my friend because, he really respects my decision. I told him, bro, within your church's theology, I'm not saved. And, he was really, flustered at that. and I'm just wanting to come to you to get, wisdom as to what I should do.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's been a long time since I've done almost anything in reading up on any new developments on the ICC. It was, if I recall correctly, I could be wrong about this, but I think Eric Nielsen wrote a couple of articles for us a number of years ago on our blog, which I think everything which was once on the blog has now been posted in the archives of the blog. But there might be something. I think Rich may be looking right now. Is that what you're doing out there? He's checking, but there might be something on the International Churches of Christ on the blog. If not, I'm sure there probably is at some of the organizations like Personal Freedom Outreach. It's not one of the areas that we focus upon or have done any debates on or anything like that, other than to recognize that the guy that started had named Kip something, as I recall.
Yeah, Kip. I forget his last name, but yeah, he was weird.
I can't hear you, Rich. I'm sorry.
Kip Kinkle.
Kinkle? That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right to me. But anyway, was there something up there? Was there something on our website from Eric Nielsen or anything? Not there? Okay. Anyway, Personal Freedom Outreach, maybe CARM, some of those groups might have some specifics on the ICC, the people who keep an eye on their recent developments, but they really should be distinguished from the mainline Churches of Christ, which do have some, obviously there's some serious problems, the old line Church of Christ, as far as almost getting to the point of Pelagianism and baptismal regeneration, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of Churches of Christ that aren't ICC have somewhat liberalized and somewhat backed off from some of those things. So there is a distinction that needs to be brought there. But yeah, they will utilize that kind of pressure to keep conversation from happening. And it does sound like your friends are in a situation out of the frying pan into the fire. And the problem is that the same kind of works orientation that was very much a part of Roman Catholicism, they just went right back to it in a bare bones version in the ICC version of it. So what can you do about that? Well, it sounds, from the way you described it, it almost sounds like your friend, the husband, isn't really in charge as far as spiritually goes.
He's not. He's very quiet. He's very passive.
Okay.
So his wife is the opposite. She's very aggressive, and she holds. I don't know. She's very. I don't know.
Yeah, that's gonna even make it harder. You can try to keep this. By the way, it's Kip McKean. Thank you to Abu Khamer.